You should thank me, Scarlett said. At least now you know you were his mistake. I'm the one he truly loves. I couldn't breathe. 4 days ago, Jacob Torrance left me at the altar. No explanation. No warning. Just a text message 3 hours before our ceremony. I can't do this. And now here he was in a dive bar I'd never been to, in a part of town I had no reason to visit, with his tongue down my best friend's throat. My best friend. Scarlett Clark. The woman who'd picked out my wedding dress with me. Who'd held me on my bathroom floor 2 nights ago while I sobbed so hard I threw up. Who'd whispered, "He doesn't deserve you," over and over until I almost believed it. She'd known. The entire time she'd known. "Mia, don't make this harder than it needs to be," Jacob said, finally looking at me. His voice was flat, bored, like I was a problem he'd already solved. "We both know it wasn't working." My voice cracked. "We were together for 3 years. And you were boring for 2 of them." Scarlett leaned back against him, running her fingers through his hair. "The same way I used to. Jacob needs someone with fire, passion. Not someone who cries during rom-coms and plans her life around someone else's dreams." Laughter exploded from a nearby table. I turned and saw them 3 girls with their phones out recording. One of them whispered, loud enough for me to hear, "Wait, isn't this that girl whose wedding got cancelled?" The room tilted. My hands were shaking. My vision was blurring. I was going to cry or scream or collapse or all 3 at once. "Just go home, Mia." Scarlett's voice was almost gentle now. Almost kind. Which somehow made it worse. "You're embarrassing yourself." I took a step backward. Then another. My heel caught on the warped floorboards and I stumbled. Jacob didn't move to catch me. Neither did Scarlett. I was drowning in front of a room full of strangers, and the 2 people I'd loved most in the world were watching me sink. "That's enough." The voice came from the shadows in the back corner. Low. Cold. Absolute. Every conversation in the bar died instantly. Turned. A man rose from a table. I hadn't noticed the kind of table people knew better than to look at. Dark-haired. Dressed in black. His face was all sharp angles and control, and his eyes. His eyes were the kind that made grown men look away. Someone near me whispered, "Oh shit. That's Sam Lloyd." My blood went cold. Everyone knew that name. The man who controlled half this city's underworld. The one even the police commissioner wouldn't touch. Dangerous, ruthless, feared. And he was walking straight toward me. Each step was deliberate, measured. The crowd parted like he was carrying a loaded gun, and maybe he was. When he stopped in front of me, so close I could smell cedar and gunpowder, he didn't look at Jacob or Scarlett. He looked only at me. "You don't cry in front of trash," Sam Lloyd said quietly. His voice meant only for my ears. Then, without asking permission, he shrugged off his coat and draped it around my shoulders. The leather was still warm from his body. Heavy. Real. "Come with me." It wasn't a question. Wasn't a command. Was a lifeline. Behind me, Jacob stood up fast enough to knock his chair backward. "Hey, look, she's not." Sam's gaze shifted to him. Just that. One look. Jacob sat back down. Scarlett's smile vanished. Sam extended his hand to me, palm up. Waiting. Every Logie Jacob part of my brain screamed at me to refuse. To run. This was Sam Lloyd, a man whose name appeared in crime podcasts and unsolved case files. But my shattered heart saw something in his dark eyes that Jacob had never given me. Respect. I took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, steady, warm, certain, and he led me through the silent bar, past the staring crowd, past the phone still recording, past Jacob's shocked face and Scarlett's fury. "Hey there, my wonderful friend. How's your day going? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story, so far drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Have you ever had someone completely unexpected show up for you in your darkest moment? Outside, the night air hit my face like cold water. A black car waited at the curb. Bleak. Expensive. Windows tinted dark enough to hide anything. Sam opened the back door but didn't push me inside. Instead, he turned to face me. his expression unreadable. I'm giving you a choice, he said. Can take you home. You never see me again. You go back to your life and pretend tonight didn't happen. He paused. Or I can make sure they never humiliate you again. How? The word came out as barely a whisper. The corner of his mouth lifted. Not quite a smile. Something darker. Marry me. The world stopped spinning. What? Marry me, he repeated, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. Tomorrow. City Hall. I'll make it the biggest news story the city's seen in years. His eyes locked onto mine. And Jacob and Scarlett will spend the rest of their miserable lives knowing they threw you away. And I picked you up. You don't even know me. I know enough. He stepped closer, and I could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. I know you deserve better than what happened in there. I know you're stronger than you think you are. His voice dropped. And I know what it's like to be betrayed by the people you die for. There was a story there. Pain buried deep beneath all that control. This is insane, I whispered. Yes. People will think I've lost my mind. Probably. I don't love you. I don't even know you. I'm not asking you to love me. His gaze never wavered. I'm asking you to let me give you back what they took. Your power. Your dignity. Your future. He paused. On your terms, not theirs. I thought about Scarlett's smile. Jacob's indifference. The strangers recording my breakdown like it was entertainment. And I thought, what do I have left to lose? Okay, I heard myself say. The word felt like jumping off a cliff. Okay. Something shifted in Sam's expression. His shoulders relaxed a fraction. His grip on my hand tightened just slightly. Then get in, he said. We have a wedding to plan. As I slid into the car, I caught my reflection in the tinted window. I was wearing a stranger's coat. About to marry a man I'd met 10 minutes ago. A man the entire city feared. And for the first time in 4 days I wasn't crying. I was smiling. The car smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Sam sat across from me in the back seat. His expression unreadable as we pulled away from Rosie's tavern. The silence stretched between us, not uncomfortable exactly, but heavy with the weight of what I'd just agreed to. Marry him. Sam Lloyd. I was either the bravest or stupidest person alive, and I hadn't decided which yet. You're thinking about running, Sam said suddenly. I jerked my gaze to his. What? You're jacopulating. He tilted his head slightly, studying me. Wondering if you can open the door at the next red light and disappear before I stop you. He was right. I hated that he was right. I wouldn't stop you, he continued, his voice softer now. If you want out, just say the word. I meant what I said. This is your choice. I looked down at my hands, still trembling slightly. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Helping me. You don't know me. And from what I've heard. I trailed off, unsure how to say you're literally a crime boss without sounding like I was accusing him. From what you've heard, I'm dangerous, he finished for me. I am. No defensiveness. No justification. Just fact. But I don't hurt people who don't deserve it. And Jacob and Scarlett deserve it. They humiliated you in public. Laughed while you broke. His jaw tightened. Yes, they deserve it. Something dark flickered in his eyes, something that told me Sam Lloyd had his own experience with betrayal. Personal. The kind that left scars. The car slowed, and I realized we'd stopped in front of a building I didn't recognize. Opus Jacobi. Leak. The kind of place that didn't advertise because it didn't need to. Where are we? Somewhere we can talk without interruption. Sam stepped out and offered his hand again. And where you can eat. You're shaking. I hadn't realized I was. The restaurant was empty except for us. Not mostly empty. Completely empty. Like Sam had bought out the entire place for the night. Mr. Lloyd. A woman in her 50s appeared from the back, her face lighting up when she saw him. I wasn't expecting you tonight. Sorry for the short notice, Marie. Sam's entire demeanor shifted. The cold, dangerous edge softened into something almost warm. We need a quiet table. And whatever she wants. Marie's gaze shifted to me, and her eyes widened slightly. Not with fear, with curiosity, and something that looked like approval. Of course. She smiled at me. Come, dear. You look like you've had a night. 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from Sam with a plate of pasta I hadn't ordered but desperately needed. Marie had taken one look at me and decided I required carbs and comfort food. And she wasn't wrong. Sam watched me eat, nursing a glass of whiskey he hadn't touched. You're not eating, I said. I'm not hungry. Then why did we come here? Because you are. He leaned back in his chair. When's the last time you ate? I opened my mouth to answer, then realized I couldn't remember. Yesterday. The day before. That's what I thought. He pushed the bread basket toward me. Eat. Then we'll talk details. Details about the fake marriage. It won't be fake. His eyes met mine, steady and serious. It'll be legal. Real. At least on paper. My stomach flipped. For how long? As long as you need it to be. He paused. A month. 6 months. A year. However long it takes for you to figure out what you want your life to look like without them in it. And what do you get out of this? Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then, redemption maybe. For what? For not helping someone when I should have. His voice was low, distant. A long time ago, I watched someone I cared about get destroyed by people she trusted. And I did nothing. His gaze refocused on me. I'm not making that mistake again. There it was. The wound beneath the armor. Who was she? I asked softly. Someone who deserved better than what she got. He took a slow sip of his whiskey. Just like you. Before I could respond, the door to the restaurant opened. A man walked in, tall, lean, with slicked back hair and a suit that screamed money. He spotted Sam immediately and headed straight for our table. His expression tight. Sam. We need to talk. Sam's jaw clenched. Not now, Dante. Yes, now. The man Dante finally looked at me, and his eyes narrowed. Who's this? None of your concern. Everything you do is my concern. Dante's voice dropped. Especially when you're making impulsive decisions that affect the family. Family. God. Sam had a family. Of course he had a family. Crime bosses didn't operate alone. I'm not discussing this here, Sam said, his tone leaving no room for argument. But Dante didn't back down. You're going to marry a stranger. After what happened with Isabel. The name hung in the air like a bomb. Sam stood slowly, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Leave. Now. Dante held his ground for another second, his gaze flicking between Sam and me. Then he leaned in close and said, just loud enough for me to hear, "Be careful, sweetheart. Sam doesn't save people. He collects them." Then he turned and walked out. The silence that followed was deafening. Sam stood frozen, his hands clenched into fists. When he finally sat back down, the warmth from earlier was gone. The walls were back up. Who's Isabel? He asked. No one. Sam. She's no one. His voice was sharp. Final. Dante doesn't know what he's talking about. But he did. I could see it in the tension in Sam's shoulders, the way he wouldn't meet my eyes. Marie appeared with dessert neither of us had ordered. Her timing suspiciously perfect. Tiramisu, she said gently, setting it between us. On the house. As she walked away, Sam finally looked at me. This is your second chance to walk away, he said quietly. My world is complicated. Dangerous. People like Dante will question you, test you, try to figure out your angle. He paused. If you stay, it won't be easy. I thought about Jacob's indifference. Scarlett's cruelty. The strangers recording my humiliation. And I thought about the way Sam had looked at me in that bar. Like I mattered. I'm not walking away, I said. Something flickered in his expression. Relief. Surprise. Then tomorrow morning we go to City Hall. He pulled out his phone and typed something quickly. "I'll have my lawyer draw up a contract. You'll have complete financial protection, access to anything you need, and an exit clause whenever you want it." He looked up. "This arrangement benefits you, Mia. Not me. I need you to understand that. Why does it feel like you're trying to talk me out of this?" "Because I want you to be sure." His voice softened. "You've been betrayed enough. I won't add to that list." My chest tightened. This dangerous man, this crime boss, was showing me more care and consideration than my fiancé of 3 years ever had. "I'm sure," I said. Sam nodded slowly. Then he raised his glass. "To new beginnings." I picked up my water glass and clinked it against his. "To new beginnings." As I took a sip, one thought echoed in my mind. Who is Isabel? And why does her name make Sam look like he's seen a ghost? The city hall steps were cold beneath my feet. I stood there in a simple white dress I'd bought at a boutique that morning, nothing like the elaborate gown that was still hanging in my childhood bedroom closet. Tags cut off, never to be worn. This dress was different. Understated. Sam stood beside me in a crisp black suit, his hand resting lightly on the small of my back. Not possessive. Protective. "You can still change your mind," he said quietly. It was the 4th time he'd said it. Once in the car. Once in the lobby. Once outside the clerk's office. And now, right before we walked inside. "I know," I said. And I meant it. Because somewhere between last night and this morning, I'd realized something. I wasn't doing this to get revenge on Jacob and Scarlett. I was doing this to save myself. "Then let's make you Mrs. Lloyd," Sam said. And there was something in his voice that made my pulse quicken. The ceremony took 7 minutes. 7 minutes to sign papers, exchange simple gold bands that Sam had somehow procured overnight, and hear a bored clerk pronounce us husband and wife. "You may kiss the bride," the clerk said, barely looking up from her paperwork. Sam turned to me, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked uncertain. "We don't have to," I started. He kissed me. Not aggressively, not performatively, softly, almost carefully, like I was something precious that might break. And when he pulled back, his dark eyes searched mine with a question he didn't ask out loud. "Was that okay?" I nodded, my heart hammering against my ribs. The clerk stamped our marriage certificate with the enthusiasm of someone processing parking tickets. "Congratulations." Next. And just like that, I was married. To a man I'd met less than 24 hours ago. A man whose last name I was now wearing. As we walked out into the bright morning sunlight, Sam's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression darkened. "What is it?" he asked. "We have a problem." He turned his phone toward me and my stomach dropped. "Mafia King marries mystery woman in secret ceremony." The headline blazed across a gossip site, complete with photos of us on the steps. Someone had been watching, waiting. How did they? I have enemies. Sam's jaw tightened. People who watch my every move, looking for leverage. His gaze met mine. "I'm sorry. I thought we'd have more time before this went public." My phone started ringing. My mother. Then my sister. Then numbers I didn't recognize. Text messages flooded in. "Mia, what the hell?" My sister. "Is this a joke?" My cousin. "Please call me. I'm worried about you." My mother. And then the one that made my blood run cold. "Congratulations on the downgrade. Scarlett Clark." I stared at that message, my hands shaking. Sam gently took my phone and powered it off. "Not today," he said firmly. "Today, you don't owe anyone an explanation. My family will still be there tomorrow. After you've had time to breathe." He guided me toward the car. "Right now, we're going somewhere they can't find you." The house was not what I expected. I'd imagined something cold, modern, sterile. Instead, Sam pulled up to a 2-story home in a quiet neighborhood. Brick facade. Flower boxes in the windows. Porch swing. "This is where you live?" I asked, incredulous. "This is where I live," he clarified. I have other properties for business. But this one's mine. He looked almost embarrassed. I know it's not. It's perfect, I said. And I meant it. Inside was even more surprising. Warm hardwood floors. Bookshelves crammed with everything from classic literature to crime novels. A kitchen that looked actually used, not staged. Guest room is upstairs, Sam said, setting my bag hastily packed that morning by the stairs. Master's down the hall. You take whichever you want. You're giving me the master bedroom. You're my wife. He said it simply like it was obvious. Even if it's only on paper, you deserve to be comfortable. There was that word again. Deserve. Sam Lloyd seemed obsessed with what I deserved. Before I could respond, there was a sharp knock at the door. Sam's entire demeanor changed. His hand moved to his waistband where I now realized he carried a gun, and he stepped in front of me. Stay here, he said quietly. He opened the door a crack, then relaxed slightly. You've got to be kidding me, a woman's voice said. You actually did it. Sam stepped back, and a woman in her 30s pushed past him into the house. She was striking sharp features, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, dressed in jeans and a leather jacket. Her eyes landed on me immediately. So you're the girl from the bar, she said. Mia, this is Elena, Sam said with a sigh. My sister. Sister. Not another associate. Not a threat. Elena circled me slowly, her expression unreadable. You know what you've gotten yourself into. Elena, Sam warned. No, she deserves to know. Elena turned to face me fully. My brother has a target on his back every single day. The families he's crossed, the deals he's made, the enemies he's collected over the years. He paused. And now, by marrying him, you have one too. My throat went dry. I didn't tell her that to scare her away, Elena continued, looking at Sam now. I told her because she needs to understand the stakes. I know the stakes, I said, finding my voice. I'm not an idiot. Elena's lips quirked into something almost like a smile. Good. Then you might actually survive this. She turned to Sam. Dante's losing his mind, by the way. Says you've compromised the family by bringing in an outsider. Dante can mind his own business. You know he won't. Elena's expression grew serious. He's already asking questions. About her. About why you married her so suddenly. He paused. He's comparing her to Isabel. Sam's face went completely blank. He needs to stop. Maybe he has a point. Elena. The single word was a warning. She held up her hands. Fine. But you need to deal with him before he does something stupid. She grabbed her keys and headed for the door, then paused and looked back at me. For what it's worth, you're braver than the last one. Then she was gone. Turned to Sam. Who is Isabel? Mia. Everyone keeps mentioning her. Now your sister. I stepped closer. If I'm in danger because of you, I deserve to know why. Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked to the window, staring out at the street. Isabel was someone I tried to protect, he said finally. 3 years ago. She was being threatened by a rival family, and I offered her safety. Married her just like this. A business arrangement. My stomach twisted. What happened to her? She thought she could play both sides. His voice was hollow. Thought she could feed information to my enemies and I wouldn't find out. He turned to face me, and the pain in his eyes was raw. She was wrong. Did you? I couldn't finish the sentence. Kill her? No. He laughed bitterly. But I might as well have. Cut her loose. Sent her away with nothing. And 3 months later, the people she'd been working with killed her anyway. The weight of that confession settled over the room like a shroud. I don't save people, Mia, Sam said quietly. I'm not a good man pretending to be bad. I'm a bad man trying to do one good thing. He met my eyes. And everyone's waiting for me to fail again. This was my moment. My chance to walk away. To annul the marriage. To go back to my quiet, safe life. But then I thought about Jacob's face when he saw the headline. Scarlett's text. Congratulations on the downgrade. And I thought about Sam's hand on my back this morning. The way he'd asked permission before kissing me. The way he kept giving me choices. I'm not Isabel, I said. Sam looked at me sharply. I'm not playing both sides. I'm not using you. I stepped closer. I made you a deal and I'm keeping it. For however long this lasts. Something shifted in his expression. Hope. Relief. Even now that you know what I am. You're a man who stood up for a stranger when no one else would. I held his gaze. That's what I know. Sam crossed the distance between us in 2 strides. For a moment I thought he might kiss me again. Instead, he rested his forehead against mine. His eyes closed. This is the point of no return, he whispered. After this, there's no going back to your old life. Good, I said. I don't want it anymore. His phone buzzed. Then again. And again. He pulled it out and his expression went cold. What is it? Jacob Torrance just filed a police report, Sam said slowly. Claiming I coerced you into marriage. That you're being held against your will. My blood turned to ice. He's trying to get the marriage annulled on grounds of duress. Sam looked up at me. And he's giving interviews to every news outlet in the city, painting himself as the concerned ex-fiancé trying to save you from a monster. The room spun. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was war. And I was standing right in the middle of it. Sam's phone rang. He answered it, his voice clipped. What? When? I'll handle it. He hung up and turned to me, his expression grim. Jacob and Scarlett are holding a press conference, he said. In 2 hours. They're going to tell the world that I kidnapped you, manipulated you, and that you're in danger. My hands clenched into fists. All my life I'd been soft, agreeable, the kind of person who avoided conflict and let other people make the hard choices. But standing there in Sam Lloyd's living room, wearing his ring bearing his name, I wasn't that person anymore. Then we give them a press conference of our own, I said. Sam's eyes widened slightly. Mia. They want to make me look like a victim. Fine. I lifted my chin. Let's show them exactly what kind of victim I am. For the first time since I'd met him, Sam Lloyd smiled. Not a smirk. Not a half smile. A real, genuine smile that reached his eyes and made him look 10 years younger. Mrs. Lloyd, he said softly. I think this might actually work. And as I stood there, planning my first act of rebellion, I realized something. I wasn't just attracted to Sam because he'd saved me. I was attracted to him because he made me want to save myself. The makeup artist dabbed powder on my face for the 3rd time. You're sweating through it, she said apologetically. Are you okay? Was I okay? I was about to face cameras, reporters, and the 2 people who destroyed my life, all while pretending to be the confident wife of a man the world feared. I'm fine, I lied. Sam appeared in the doorway of the hotel suite we'd rented for the press conference. He'd insisted on neutral ground, not his territory, not theirs. Switzerland in the middle of a war. 5 minutes, he said. Then to the makeup artist. Give us a moment. She left quickly. Sam crossed the room and knelt in front of me, bringing himself to eye level. The gesture was so unexpected, so tender that my throat tightened. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. I can handle Jacob and Scarlett. You can stay here, stay silent and let them control the narrative. I shook my head. Well, I'm done being silent. His hand found mine. They're going to ask invasive questions. They're going to try to make you look unstable, impulsive, manipulated. He paused. They're going to be cruel. Good. I squeezed his hand. Let them see what they created. Pride flickered in his dark eyes. There she is. Who? The woman who's been hiding under all that softness. He stood, pulling me up with him. The fighter. Before I could respond, Elena burst through the door. We have a problem, she said, her face tight. Jacob brought reinforcements. The press conference room was packed. Reporters, cameras, lights so bright they turned everything into a stage. And sitting in the front row, Jacob Torrance and Scarlett Clark, dressed like they were attending a funeral. Concerned, united. But that wasn't the problem. Sitting next to them was my mother. My stomach dropped. "Mom!" The word escaped before I could stop it. She looked up, and her eyes were red from crying. "Mia, sweetheart. Mrs. Ripley has some concerns about her daughter's well-being," Jacob said smoothly, standing. He placed a protective hand on my mother's shoulder. "As do I." The cameras swiveled between us like spectators at a tennis match. Sam's hand pressed against my lower back, grounding me. "Let's begin," he said calmly. We sat at a table facing the crowd. Sam composed and controlled. Me, my heart hammering so hard I was sure the microphones would pick it up. A reporter stood immediately. "Mr. Lloyd, can you explain why you married Ms. Ripley less than 24 hours after meeting her?" "Because she needed protection," Sam said simply. "And I was in a position to provide it." "Protection from what?" "From public humiliation by people who claimed to care about her." His gaze slid to Jacob and Scarlett. "People who apparently have a lot to say now that she's moved on." Jacob stood abruptly. "Moved on?" "She was vulnerable, heartbroken, and you exploited that." "I was heartbroken because of you," I said. The room went silent. I hadn't planned to speak yet. But seeing Jacob standing there, playing the concerned ex, with my mother beside him like a prop, something inside me snapped. I stood, my legs shaking but my voice steady. "You left me at the altar, Jacob." No explanation. No apology. Just a cowardly text message. I looked directly at him. "And then I found you with her." My gaze shifted to Scarlett. "My best friend. The woman who held me while I cried over you." Scarlett's expression remained neutral, but I saw her jaw tighten. "So yes, I married Sam Lloyd," I continued. "A man I barely knew. Because in one night, he showed me more respect and kindness than you did in 3 years." Cameras flashed like lightning. "Mia, honey, you're not thinking clearly," my mother started. "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years, Mom." I turned to her, and my heart cracked. "Jacob came to you, didn't he? Told you I was in danger. That I needed saving." Her silence was confirmation. "I don't need saving," I said softly. "I needed to save myself. And I did." Another reporter stood. "Mrs. Lloyd, are you saying you weren't coerced into this marriage?" "I'm saying I made a choice." I looked at Sam and found strength in his steady gaze. Maybe it seems impulsive to everyone else. But it was my choice. Mine. "But you understand why people are concerned," the reporter pressed. "Given Mr. Lloyd's reputation." "You mean because he's powerful? Because he's feared?" I lifted my chin. "Or because he's the kind of man who stands up to bullies instead of becoming one?" Sam's expression remained neutral, but I felt his hand find mine under the table. His thumb brushed across my knuckles once. "Thank you," the gesture said. Jacob's face was turning red. "This is ridiculous. Mia, stop protecting him and think about what you're doing." "I'm done thinking about what other people want me to do," I said. "For once in my life, I'm doing what I want." "And what's that?" Scarlett's voice cut through the noise. She stood slowly, her expression icy. "Playing house with a criminal. Pretending you're someone you're not." "I'm not pretending anything." I met her gaze. "But you are. You're pretending you didn't plan this. That it just happened." Pause. "How long, Scarlett? How long were you sleeping with him before the wedding?" Her mask cracked. "Just for a second. But it was enough." 6 months, I said, the realization hitting me even as I spoke. "It started 6 months ago. That's when you started suggesting we postpone the wedding. When you kept saying I should be sure." My voice shook. "You were buying yourself time." Scarlett's silence was damning. The room erupted with questions, cameras swinging toward her and Jacob. Sam leaned close to my ear. We're leaving. Now. He stood and I followed, his hand firmly around mine as we pushed through the crowd. Behind us, I could hear Jacob trying to regain control, my mother calling my name, reporters shouting questions. But I didn't look back. The car ride was silent. Elena drove while Sam sat beside me in the back, his expression unreadable. You did well, he said finally. I accused my best friend of sleeping with my fiancé on live television. Former best friend. Former fiancé. He looked at me. And you weren't wrong, were you? Well, I hadn't been. I'd seen it in Scarlett's face. Your mother will call, Elena said from the front seat. She'll apologize, tried to explain. I know. My chest ached. Jacob manipulated her. Made her think she was helping me. He's good at that, Sam said darkly. Manipulation. We pulled up to the house, and I felt the tension in my shoulders ease slightly. This place, Sam's home, had started to feel safe. Like a shelter in a storm I hadn't known I was weathering. Inside, Sam poured me a drink I didn't ask for but desperately needed. You should rest, he said. It's been a long day. But I didn't want to rest. I wanted answers. Who was Isabel before you married her? Yes. Sam went very still. You said she was someone you tried to protect. But who was she to you before that? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, someone I cared about. Before I knew better. You loved her. I thought I did. He took a slow sip of his drink. But love and possession aren't the same thing. I learned that too late. And now, with me. His eyes met mine. This is different. How? Because I'm not trying to possess you, Mia. I'm trying to free you. He set down his glass. Everything I've done, the marriage, the press conference, all of it is about giving you choices. Power. He paused. Isabel never wanted that. She wanted protection without cost. Safety without sacrifice. What did she sacrifice? Her integrity. His voice hardened. She sold information about my operations to the court of a family. Names, locations, schedules. 3 of my men died because of her. My blood ran cold. And you? Let her go. I couldn't kill her. Despite what she'd done, I couldn't. He trailed off. So I cut her loose. Gave her money and told her to disappear. His jaw clenched. The Cordovas found her 3 months later. Killed her to tie up loose ends. That's not your fault. Isn't it? He looked at me, and the guilt in his eyes was raw. I put her in that position. I married her, made her a target, and then abandoned her. You gave her a choice. She made it. And now I've done the same thing to you. He stood abruptly, pacing. You have a target on your back because of me. My enemies, my family, people like Dante who think you're a liability. I can handle it. Can you? He turned to face me. Because this isn't a game, Mia. This isn't some revenge plot against your ex. This is real. Dangerous. People will try to hurt you to get to me. Then teach me, I said. He blinked. What? Teach me how to survive in your world. I stood, closing the distance between us. You said this marriage gives me power. So give me the tools to use it. Sam stared at me for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. All right, he said. But we start tomorrow. Tonight you rest. He started to walk away, but I caught his hand. Sam. He turned. Thank you, I said softly. For standing beside me today. For not treating me like I'm fragile. Something shifted in his expression. He stepped closer, and suddenly the air between us felt charged. Electric. You're not fragile, he said quietly. You're steel wrapped in silk. Anyone who ever made you think otherwise was a fool. His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. Mia, he whispered. We should. His phone rang, shattering the moment. He pulled back, cursing under his breath. It's done. I have to. Take it, I said, trying to ignore the disappointment flooding through me. he answered, his expression darkening with every second. When? How many? I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up, and the warmth from moments ago was gone. This was Sam Lloyd, the crime boss. Cold, calculating, dangerous. I have to go, he said. There's been an incident at one of my warehouses. Elena will stay with you. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. You said you'd teach me. That starts now. Mia, this is your world. I know. I grabbed my jacket. And I'm part of it now, whether you like it or not. For a moment I thought he'd refuse. Then, surprisingly, he nodded. Stay close to me, he said. Don't speak unless I tell you to. And if I say run, you run. Understood. Understood. The warehouse was on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by chain-link fence and shadows. When we arrived, Dante was waiting outside, his expression grim. It's bad, he said without preamble. How bad? See for yourself. Inside the warehouse was chaos. Overturned crates. Bullet holes in the walls. And in the center, 3 men tied to chairs, beaten and bloody. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from gasping. Sam's expression remained neutral as he approached them. Who sent you? He asked calmly. One of the men spat blood at his feet. Sam didn't flinch. He pulled out his gun casually, like he was checking his phone, and pressed it against the man's temple. I'll ask once more. Who sent you? The Cordovas, the man gasped. They said you had a new wife. That she was leverage. As flooded my veins. Sam's jaw clenched. And what were your orders? To send a message. The man laughed, blood staining his teeth. That they're coming for her. Sam pulled the trigger. I jumped at the sound, my ears ringing. The man slumped forward, dead. Sam turned to the other 2. Anyone else want to deliver messages? They shook their heads frantically. Then you're going to deliver one for me, Sam said coldly. Tell the Cordovas that if they come near my wife, I'll burn their entire operation to the ground. Every warehouse, every deal, every member of their family. He leaned in close. And I'll make sure they watch before I kill them. He gestured to Dante, who cut the men loose. They scrambled out of the warehouse like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Sam holstered his gun and turned to me. Now you understand, he said quietly. This is what my life looks like. Violence. Death. His eyes searched mine. Do you still want to be part of it? My hands were shaking. My stomach was churning. I just watched a man die. But I'd also seen Sam's face when that man mentioned me. Cold fury. The protective rage. Yes, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I still want in. Something like respect flickered in his eyes. Then let's go home, he said. But as we turned to leave, Dante stepped into our path. We need to talk, he said to Sam. Alone. Not now. It's about her. Dante's gaze slid to me. And what she's really doing here. Sam's expression went dangerous. Watch yourself. No, you watch yourself. Dante pulled out his phone and turned it toward Sam. Look at this and tell me I'm wrong to question her. I couldn't see the screen, but I saw Sam's face change. Then anger. Then something worse. Betrayal. Sam. My voice came out small. What is it? He looked at me, and for the first time since I'd met him, I saw doubt in his eyes. When did you contact Jacob? He asked quietly. What? I didn't. Don't lie to me, Mia. He turned the phone toward me. On the screen was a text message thread. My name at the top. Messages to Jacob from this afternoon. I'm in. He trusts me. Give me 2 weeks and I'll have everything you need. He doesn't suspect a thing. My world tilted. I didn't send those, I said desperately. Sam, I swear I didn't. Then how does Dante have screenshots from Jacob's phone? His voice was cold now, distant. How did he get messages from your number? I don't know. Someone must have. Cloned your phone. Hacked your messages. Dante scoffed. You expect us to believe that? Yes, because it's the truth. I turned to Sam, my heart shattering. You know me. You know I wouldn't. I knew Isabel too, Sam said quietly. And she said the same thing. Right up until the moment I had proof. Tears burned my eyes. I'm not her. Prove it. How? How do I prove something I didn't do? Silence. Sam stepped back and the distance between us felt like miles. Dante, take her back to the house, he said. Lock down security. No one in or out. You're locking me up. Disbelief flooded through me. Sam, please. I need time to think. He wouldn't look at me. And you need to figure out how those messages exist. But that's final. Dante grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the door. Sam. I fought against Dante's grip, but he was too strong. Sam, please. I didn't betray you. He finally looked at me, and the emptiness in his eyes broke something inside me. Everyone says that, he said softly. Right before they do. The click of the lock felt like a death sentence. I stood in the guest room, staring at the door that had just been locked from the outside, and felt the walls closing in. This morning I had been Sam Lloyd's wife. This morning he had looked at me like I mattered, like I was someone worth protecting. Now I was a prisoner in his home, suspected of the same betrayal that had destroyed him 3 years ago. I sank onto the bed, my hands shaking so badly I had to clasp them together to make it stop. The dress I had worn to the press conference suddenly felt suffocating, too tight, like it was conspiring with the room to squeeze the air from my lungs. I changed into the simple clothes I had brought with me when I moved in, trying to focus on the practical task instead of the panic clawing at my throat. I needed to think. Someone had sent those messages from my number to Jacob, messages I had never written, conversations I had never had. But who would want to destroy this marriage badly enough to fabricate evidence? Jacob, obviously. He had made his intentions clear at the press conference. But Jacob barely knew how to use his laptop without help. This required technical sophistication, planning, access to systems I didn't even understand. I grabbed my phone, the one Dante hadn't bothered to confiscate, probably because he thought the damage was already done. I scrolled through my messages, looking for the texts he had shown Sam. They weren't there. Not in my sent folder. Not in my trash. Nowhere. Because I hadn't sent them. Someone had created them on Jacob's end, made it look like they came from me, and fed them to Dante at precisely the right moment to shatter Sam's fragile trust. A soft knock at the door made me jump. Elena's voice came through, quiet and urgent. Mia. I'm coming in. The lock clicked, and she slipped inside, closing the door quickly behind her. Her expression was hard to read, somewhere between suspicion and something that might have been sympathy. You have about 3 minutes before Dante realizes I'm here, she said without preamble. You believe me. The hope in my voice sounded pathetic even to my own ears. Elena studied me for a long moment before answering. I don't know what to believe, but I know my brother. And I know what losing Isabel did to him. She pulled a small device from her pocket and held it out to me. This is a clone of Jacob's phone. Well, his messages anyway. One of my contacts pulled them an hour ago. I stared at the device like it might explode. Why are you helping me? Because Sam's been dead inside for 3 years. And then you happened. Elena's expression softened slightly. I saw the way he looked at you today at that press conference. Like he was remembering how to be human again. Like he was remembering what it felt like to hope. She pressed the device into my hand. Don't make me regret this. She left as quickly as she had come, the lock clicking back into place behind her. My hands trembled as I activated the device. The screen flickered to life, showing Jacob's message threads. Texts to Scarlett, full of inside jokes and casual cruelty that made my stomach turn. Messages to his parents, carefully crafted lies about why the wedding had been postponed. And then a thread with an unknown number that made my blood run cold. The messages were recent, from earlier today. Package delivered, The unknown contact had written. Screenshots sent to your guy. Jacob's response had been immediate and gleeful. Perfect. Lloyd will drop her by tomorrow. Then we can move forward with the lawsuit. I scrolled up, my heart pounding harder with each message I read. The conversation went back weeks. Before I had even met Sam. Before that night at Rosie's tavern that had changed everything. Found your target. The unknown number had written 2 weeks before my failed wedding. Mia Ripley, 29, works at Morrison & Associates. Routine schedule. No security. Easy access. Jacob had been having me followed. Studied like a lab rat in preparation for whatever game he was playing. I kept scrolling, looking for more context, anything that would tell me who was helping him. Then I found it, buried in messages from 3 weeks ago, right around the time Jacob had disappeared from our wedding. She went to a bar tonight. Aside. Rosie's tavern. The contact had reported. Jacob's response made my stomach drop. Perfect. We'll be there. It hadn't been a coincidence. That night at the bar, finding Jacob and Scarlett together. The public humiliation that had driven me into Sam's protection. All of it had been orchestrated. Jacob had known I would be there. He had wanted me to find them. Wanted me broken down and desperate. But why? I found the answer 3 messages later, and it felt like being punched in the chest. Once she's broken down enough, she'll come running back, Jacob had written. Then I can get what I need from her father's will. My father's will. The trust fund I couldn't access until I was married or turned 35. I had mentioned it to Jacob once years ago in passing. A casual comment about my father's desire to make sure I was settled before giving me access to that kind of money. I hadn't thought about it in months. Hadn't realized Jacob had been thinking about it the entire time. Everything clicked into place with sickening clarity. The proposal right after my father's diagnosis. The rushed wedding planning. His insistence that we combine our finances before the ceremony. He had never loved me. He had been waiting for my father to die so he could access the trust fund. And when I had started asking questions, started suggesting we slow down, probably because Scarlett had been poisoning that well to give herself more time, he had panicked. The abandonment at the altar hadn't been impulsive or emotional. It had been calculated. Break me down completely. Make me so desperate and isolated that I would come crawling back to him. Then swoop in as the savior, marry me quietly and take everything. But I had married Sam instead. And that had destroyed his entire plan. I was still staring at the device, my mind reeling, when it buzzed with a new message in Jacob's thread. My blood turned to ice as I read it. We have a problem, the unknown contact had written. The girl's getting smart. Lloyd's sister gave her something. Someone was watching the house. Right now. Watching me. Jacob's response came immediately. Handle it. How permanent? The contact asked. My hand started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the device. I watched in horror as Jacob's response appeared on the screen. Just scared enough to run. I need her alive for the will. Understood. Moving now. I dropped the device and ran to the door, pounding on it with both fists. Elena. Elena. My voice came out raw and desperate, but there was no response from the other side. Ran to the window and looked down. 2 stories up, with a flower bed below. I could probably survive the jump if I had to, but I would definitely break something. The lights went out. The entire house plunged into darkness so complete it felt like being buried alive. I felt along the wall, trying to find my phone for the flashlight when I heard it. Glass breaking somewhere downstairs. Then footsteps, heavy and deliberate, making no attempt at stealth. They were coming closer. Coming up the stairs. Coming for me. I backed away from the door, my heart hammering so hard it felt like it might break through my ribs. The window. I had to get to the window. I had to jump, broken bones be damned, because anything was better than whatever was on the other side of that door. The lock clicked. The door swung open slowly, and a figure stood silhouetted against the slightly less dark hallway. Too tall to be Elena. Wrong build entirely for Dante. This was someone else. Someone sent specifically for me. Mia Ripley Lloyd, a man's voice said, unfamiliar and cold. You've caused a lot of trouble. He stepped into the room, and in the pale moonlight filtering through the window, I saw the gun in his hand. Please, I whispered, hating how small my voice sounded. I didn't do anything. Save it. He raised the weapon, his finger moving to the trigger. Nothing personal. Just business. This was it. This was how my story ended. Locked in a room, alone, with Sam thinking I had betrayed him just like Isabel had. He would never know the truth. Would never know that I had loved him, that I had meant every word I said, that I would have chosen him again and again if given the chance. The gunshot was deafening in the small room. I screamed and flinched, my arms coming up instinctively to protect my head, waiting for the pain that would tell me I had been hit. But it didn't come. Instead, I heard a heavy thud as something hit the floor. I opened my eyes to find the man crumpled at my feet, a pool of blood spreading slowly beneath him. And standing in the doorway, his own gun still raised. His face a mask of cold fury that would have terrified me if it had been directed at me, was Sam. Mia, he said, and his voice was rough, scraped raw with something that sounded like fear. Are you hurt? I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. My entire body had locked up, shock flooding through my system like ice water. Sam crossed the room in 3 long strides and pulled me against his chest, one hand cradling the back of my head while the other wrapped around my waist, holding me so tightly it almost hurt. But I needed it. Needed the solid reality of him to prove that I was still alive, that this was real. I've got you, he whispered against my hair. I've got you. You're safe. Sam, the messages, Jacob. He was, the words tumbled out in a rush, tripping over each other in their desperation to be heard. I know. His arms tightened around me. Elena told me everything. I know you didn't betray me. I know. He pulled back just enough to look at me, and the guilt in his dark eyes was devastating. I should have believed you from the start. I let my past blind me. Let Dante manipulate me into seeing ghosts that weren't there. His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing away tears I hadn't realized were falling. I'm sorry. God, Mia, I'm so sorry. Footsteps thundered up the stairs, and Elena appeared in the doorway with 3 men I didn't recognize, all of them armed. She took one look at the body on the floor and cursed creatively. How many more? Sam demanded, his voice shifting back to the cold authority of the man who controlled half the city's underworld. 2 outside. Already handled. Elena's gaze found mine. You okay? I nodded, not trusting my voice. We need to move, one of the men said, his eyes scanning the hallway like he expected more threats to materialize from the shadows. If Jacob sent a team, he'll know they failed soon. He'll either run or escalate. Then we end this, Sam said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Tonight. He turned to me, and I could see the internal battle playing out across his face. Protection versus respect. The desire to keep me safe warring with the knowledge that I deserved to make my own choices. I need you to stay here, he started. With Elena. Where it's safe and... No. The word came out stronger than I had expected, clear and unwavering. I'm done hiding. Done being protected while other people fight my battles. I met his eyes, letting him see my resolve. This is my fight too, Sam. Jacob used me. Stalked me. Sent someone to kill me. I deserve to face him. Mia. I know it's dangerous. I know you want to keep me safe. I stepped closer, close enough to see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. But keeping me locked away while you handle everything isn't keeping me safe. It's keeping me powerless. And I'm done being powerless. Sam studied my face for a long moment, and I could see the exact second he made his decision. The tension in his shoulders eased slightly, and something that looked like pride flickered in his expression. Elena, he said, never taking his eyes off me. Give her a vest. And a gun. Elena's eyebrows shot up. Sam, are you sure? She's right. This is her fight. He finally looked at his sister. But she stays behind me at all times. Understood. Understood, I said before Elena could argue. 20 minutes later, I was wearing a bulletproof vest that felt heavy and surreal under my jacket, with a gun Elena had given me tucked into my waistband. She had shown me how to check the safety, how to hold it properly, how to aim if it came to that. I hoped desperately that it wouldn't come to that, but the weight of the weapon was oddly comforting. A reminder that I wasn't helpless anymore. We pulled up to a building I recognized immediately, and my stomach twisted. Jacob's apartment. The place I had spent countless nights over the past 3 years, cooking dinner in his tiny kitchen, falling asleep on his couch during movie marathons, planning a future that had never been real. He's still here, Elena confirmed, checking something on her phone. Heat signatures showed 2 people inside. Jacob and Scarlett. Still together. Still thinking they had won. Sam's team moved like shadows, securing the perimeter with the efficiency that spoke of years of practice. I followed Sam and Elena to the main entrance, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. When we get inside, let me do the talking, Sam said quietly, his hand finding mine and squeezing once. Jacob will try to manipulate you. Try to make you doubt yourself, doubt us. It's what he does. I won't let him, I said. He's good at it, Mia. Very good. That's how he got away with using you for 3 years. I know. I checked the gun one more time, making sure the safety was on like Elena had taught me. But I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago. I'm not even the same person I was 3 weeks ago. Sam's lips quirked into something that wasn't quite a smile but was close. No, you're not. The apartment door wasn't locked. We walked in to find Jacob and Scarlett at the dining table, surrounded by suitcases packed and ready, passports laid out like they were planning a trip. They were running. They froze when they saw us, and I watched Jacob's face cycle through several emotions in rapid succession. Fear. And then, with a speed that would have been impressive if it wasn't so predictable, concern. Mia! He stood quickly, his face rearranging itself into an expression of relief so perfectly crafted it might have fooled me a week ago. Thank God. I was so worried. I heard there was an incident at Lloyd's house, and I thought, cut the act, Jacob, I said, my voice steady and calm. I sounded like someone else. Someone stronger. His expression flickered, the mask slipping for just a second. What are you talking about? I know about the will. About the stalking. About your plan to break me down so I would come running back to you. I took a step forward, and I felt Sam's presence at my back, solid and supportive. I know all of it. For a moment, Jacob looked genuinely surprised, like he couldn't quite believe I had figured it out. Then his mask cracked completely, and the man underneath was someone I didn't recognize at all. Cold. Calculating. Cruel. Well, he said, his voice losing all pretense of warmth. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. I honestly didn't think you had it in you. Scarlett stood slowly, her eyes darting between us and the door like she was calculating her chances of making a run for it. Elena shifted slightly, her hand moving to her weapon, and Scarlett seemed to think better of it. She sat back down. You could have just asked me for money, I said, and I was surprised by how calm I sounded. Like I was discussing the weather instead of confronting the man who had orchestrated my stalking and attempted murder. If you were that desperate. Jacob laughed, and the sound was ugly and bitter. And you would have given it to me. Sweet, soft Mia who couldn't make a decision without polling everyone around her first. He shook his head. You would have tied it up in conditions and payment plans and probably made me go to therapy or some other useless garbage. So you decided to torture me instead. Torture? He scoffed. I gave you purpose. Direction. Without me you were just drifting through life, working a job you hated, living a life you were too scared to change. I made you matter. He's right, you know, Scarlett added, her voice carrying that same false sweetness that had fooled me for so many years. You should really be thanking us. We forced you to grow a spine. The words should have hurt. A week ago they would have destroyed me. But standing there in a bulletproof vest, with a gun at my waist and Sam Lloyd at my back, I felt nothing but pity for them. They were so small, so pathetic. They had built their entire sense of self-worth on tearing other people down. And now that I refused to be torn down anymore, they had nothing. You're right, I said quietly. I was soft, tired, too worried about making everyone else happy to fight for myself. I looked directly at Jacob, letting him see the person I had become. But I'm not that person anymore. And you don't get to take credit for my growth. You were just the obstacle I had to overcome. Jacob's face twisted with rage. You stupid. His hand darted toward the table, reaching for something I couldn't see. Sam moved faster than I would have thought possible, his gun coming up in one smooth motion. The shot was deafening in the small apartment. Jacob screamed and crumpled to the floor, clutching his hand, blood pouring between his fingers. Next one goes through your skull, Sam said, his voice calm and cold and absolutely terrifying. Want to try again? On the table where Jacob had been reaching sat a gun. He had been going for a weapon. Had been planning to shoot us, probably me specifically, rather than face the consequences of what he had done. Scarlett was crying now, her hands raised in surrender, mascara running down her face in black streaks. Please, I didn't. This was all Jacob. I just went along with it. I didn't know he was going to try to kill you, I swear. You knew what he was planning tonight, I said, crouching down so I was at her eye level. You knew he sent someone to that house. Knew they were supposed to scare me into running. You were in on all of it. Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. You're not my friend, I said softly. You never were. You were just someone who enjoyed having power over someone too nice to fight back. I stood up and looked down at her. But I'm fighting back now. Elena was already on her phone calling someone. Police probably, though knowing Sam's connections it might have been someone else entirely. Someone who would make sure Jacob and Scarlett faced actual consequences instead of slipping through legal loopholes. Sam's team secured both of them. Jacob still whimpering about his ruined hand. Scarlett crying and trying to explain herself to anyone who would listen. No one was listening. Sam guided me toward the door, his hand warm and steady on my lower back. Come on. Let's get you out of here. We walked out into the cool night air, and I finally let myself breathe. Really breathe. Deep gulps of air that tasted like freedom and possibility, and the end of a chapter one should have closed years ago. It's over, Sam said. Is it? I looked up at him. The Cordovas are still out there. Dante still doesn't trust me. Your world doesn't just stop because we dealt with Jacob. No, he admitted. But Jacob's part is over. The threat he represented, the power he had over you, that's finished. He turned to face me fully, his hands coming up to cup my face. And I'll handle the rest. I'll handle the Cordovas and Dante and anyone else who tries to hurt you. We'll handle the rest, I corrected. We're partners, remember? Equals. He smiled then, a real smile that reached his eyes and made him look younger. We'll handle the rest, he agreed. Back at the house, after the police had been called and statements had been given and Elena had finally left us alone, Sam and I stood in his kitchen in the quiet. The same kitchen where I had agreed to this marriage. Where I had taken a leap of faith that had changed everything. I need to tell you something, Sam said, his voice serious. I braced myself. Okay. When I saw those messages, when Dante showed me that supposed proof that you were working with Jacob. He ran a hand through his hair, messing it up in a way that made him look vulnerable. I wanted to believe you. Wanted to trust that you were different, that this was different. But I was so afraid of being Isabel's fool again. Of letting myself care about someone who was just using me. I would never. I know that now. I should have known it then. He stepped closer, close enough that I could see the regret and guilt written across his features. But I hurt you. I locked you up. Doubted you when you needed me to believe in you. And you would have every right to walk away from this marriage and never look back. My heart clenched. Is that what you want? God, no. The words came out fast and fierce. I want you to stay. Want to wake up next to you every morning and come home to you every night. Want to build a life with you that's real and messy and complicated and perfect. He took a shaky breath. But what I want doesn't matter if you can't forgive me for not trusting you when it mattered most. I looked at this man who had saved me in a bar, married me to give me back my power, and then nearly lost me because his own trauma made him doubt. He wasn't perfect. He was damaged and dangerous and carried scars that would probably never fully heal. But he was also trying, growing, learning to trust again despite every instinct telling him it was safer to stay closed off. I stepped forward and kissed him. Not gently or tentatively, but with everything I had. All the fear from tonight, all the relief that we were both alive, all the love I hadn't realized I was capable of feeling until he had walked into my life and changed everything. When we finally broke apart, both of us breathing hard, I rested my forehead against his. I'm falling for you, he whispered. I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. I know we've only known each other a few weeks and this whole thing started as a business arrangement. But I'm falling for you, Mia. Hard. I'm falling for you too, I said, and felt the truth of it in every cell of my body. And I'm not walking away. I'm choosing to stay. Choosing you. Choosing us. His eyes closed, and I felt his whole body relax like he had been holding his breath waiting for my answer. I don't deserve you. Probably not, I agreed, and laughed when his eyes snapped open in surprise. But you're stuck with me anyway. He kissed me again, slower this time, sweeter, like he was savoring it. Like he was trying to memorize the taste of this moment so he could carry it with him forever. Stay, he said when we finally pulled apart. Not because of the arrangement or the protection or any of the reasons we started this. Stay because you want to. I thought about the girl I had been 3 weeks ago. Heartbroken and humiliated, standing in a dive bar while the two people she loved most laughed at her pain. That girl had been soft and scared, waiting for someone else to rescue her. And then I thought about who I was now. Still soft in some ways but strong too. Brave enough to fight for herself. Brave enough to choose a dangerous man with a complicated past because she saw the good in him that he couldn't always see in himself. I'll stay, I said. But on one condition. Anything. No more locked doors. No more secrets. No more assuming the worst when things look bad. I held his gaze. We're partners. Equals. We trust each other even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Or this doesn't work. Sam's smile was beautiful and real and full of promise. Deal. He kissed me again and I kissed him back, and standing there in his kitchen with a taste of him on my lips and the weight of his arms around me, I felt something I hadn't felt in longer than I could remember. Felt home. 3 weeks had passed since the night Jacob's hand was shattered by a bullet, since Scarlett's mascara ran black down her face as the police led her away, since I'd kissed Sam Lloyd in his kitchen and felt the world tilt on its axis in a way that had nothing to do with fear. 3 weeks of learning what it meant to be Mrs. Lloyd. Not the version the tabloids imagined, some trophy wife locked in a gilded cage. The real version. The one where I sat in on business meetings and learned to read the subtle shifts in power dynamics. Where Elena taught me to shoot properly, not just hold a gun like a prop. Where Sam came home with tension carved into his shoulders and let me work it out with my hands while he told me about his day in careful detail, trusting me with the parts of his world he'd hidden from everyone else. We were building something. Something real. But we both knew it wasn't finished yet. The Cordova family hadn't made another move since the warehouse, but their silence was strategic, not surrender. Dante had been quietly reassigned to operations across the city, Sam's diplomatic way of saying he no longer trusted him near me. And my mother had finally stopped leaving voicemails that started with, "Mia, sweetheart, can we please just talk about this?" After I'd gone to her house and laid out everything Jacob had done. The look on her face when she realized she'd been manipulated, that she'd sided with my stalker against her own daughter, had been worth every uncomfortable minute of that conversation. But there was still one piece unfinished. I stood in front of the mirror in our bedroom, not the guest room anymore, but the master bedroom I now shared with Sam, and smoothed down the deep blue dress I'd chosen for tonight. Simple. Elegant. The kind of dress that said I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. Sam appeared in the doorway behind me, already dressed in a dark suit that made him look less like a crime boss and more like some dangerous fallen angel. Our eyes met in the mirror, and he smiled that small, private smile that was only ever for me. "You don't have to do this," he said, walking up behind me and resting his hands on my waist. "We can still cancel. Stay home. Order terrible takeout and watch you demolish me at cards again." I leaned back against him, feeling the solid warmth of his chest against my spine. "I want to do this. I need to." Tonight was the annual Morrison and Associates charity gala, the law firm where I'd worked for 5 years before everything changed. The same event I'd been planning to attend on Jacob's arm, back when I thought I knew what my future looked like. I'd received the invitation 3 weeks ago, and after discussing it with Sam, I'd decided to go. Not to prove anything. Not to show off my new husband or my new life. But because that part of my story deserved an ending on my terms. "Then we'll make an entrance they'll never forget," Sam murmured against my ear before pressing a kiss to my temple. The gala was being held at the Ashford Estate, a historic mansion on the river that the firm rented out every year for their biggest fundraiser. Cars lined the circular driveway, and elegantly dressed couples streamed through the grand entrance where soft classical music drifted out into the evening air. Sam helped me out of the car, his hand finding mine immediately. I felt the weight of his presence beside me, not overshadowing, but supporting. Cool. The moment we walked through the doors, conversations stopped. I'd expected that. What I hadn't expected was the way it didn't make me want to shrink anymore. Instead, I lifted my chin and smiled at the familiar faces turning toward us with varying expressions of shock, curiosity, and in some cases, barely concealed judgment. Mia. Jennifer Morrison, one of the senior partners, recovered first and made her way over with the kind of professional warmth she'd perfected over decades of networking. "We're so glad you could make it. And you must be Mr. Lloyd." Sam shook her hand with the easy confidence of someone who knew exactly what kind of reputation preceded him and didn't particularly care. "Thank you for having us." Of course, of course." Jennifer's eyes sparkled with the kind of curiosity that would fuel office gossip for months. "Mia, you look absolutely radiant. Marriage clearly agrees with you." Before I could respond, another voice cut through the pleasantries. "Well, well. The prodigal bride returns." I turned to find Marcus Chen, one of the associates I'd worked with, approaching with a champagne flute in hand and a smirk on his face. We'd never been friends exactly, but we'd always had an easy rapport built on shared complaints about billable hours and difficult clients. "Marcus." I smiled genuinely. "How's the Patterson case going?" "Settled last week, thank God." He glanced at Sam with undisguised interest. "So the rumors are true. You actually married the most dangerous man in the city less than a day after meeting him." "I did," I said simply. "That's either the bravest or most insane thing I've ever heard." Marcus raised his glass in salute. "Either way, I'm impressed." The Mia Ripley I knew could barely decide what to order for lunch without polling the entire office. Sam's hand tightened slightly on my waist, but I just laughed. 'Cause Marcus was right. That had been me. And I wasn't ashamed of who I'd been, even if I'd grown into someone different. "People change," I said. "Clearly." Marcus's expression turned more serious. "For what it's worth, everyone here felt terrible about what Jacob did. Leaving you like that. We all wanted to reach out, but no one knew what to say." The honesty in his voice surprised me. I'd spent so much time focused on Jacob and Scarlett's betrayal that I hadn't considered how the rest of my life had just continued. How my co-workers and acquaintances had witnessed my humiliation and hadn't known how to bridge that gap. "Thank you for saying that," I said softly. The evening continued in a blur of similar interactions. Some people were genuinely kind, expressing their happiness that I'd found someone. Others were clearly fishing for gossip, asking leading questions about how Sam and I met, whether it was serious, if we were planning to stay in the city. I navigated each conversation with a grace I hadn't known I possessed, while Sam remained a steady presence at my side, speaking when spoken to but mostly letting me take the lead. This was my world after all. He was just visiting. We were making our way toward the balcony for some air when I saw her. My mother stood near the dessert table, looking elegant in a silver dress, talking to someone I didn't recognize. She must have felt my gaze because she looked up, and our eyes met across the crowded ballroom. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she excused herself from her conversation and walked toward us, her expression uncertain in a way I'd never seen before. My mother had always been so sure of herself, so confident in her opinions and decisions. Seeing that confidence shaken was oddly humanizing. "Mia," she said when she reached us. "I wasn't sure you'd come tonight." "I wasn't sure either," I admitted. She looked at Sam, and I saw her try to reconcile the man standing calmly beside me with a reputation she'd heard. "Mr. Lloyd. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. I'm Catherine Ripley, Mia's mother." "A pleasure, Mrs. Ripley." Sam shook her hand with perfect courtesy. "Your daughter speaks highly of you." That was a generous interpretation of our recent conversations, but I appreciated the diplomacy. My mother's eyes glistened slightly. "I owe you both an apology. Especially you, sweetheart." She looked at me, and I saw genuine remorse in her face. "I should have trusted you. Should have believed you when you needed me to. Instead, I let Jacob manipulate me into doubting my own daughter." "He was convincing," I said quietly. "He fooled me for 3 years. I can't blame you for a few days. But I'm your mother. I should have known." She reached out and took my hand, squeezing it gently. "You deserved better from me. And I'm sorry." Something tight in my chest loosened. I hadn't realized how much I'd needed to hear those words until they were spoken. "Thank you, Mom." She smiled, tears threatening to spill over. "So, are you happy? Truly?" I looked at Sam, who was watching this exchange with quiet understanding, giving us space while still being present. Then I looked back at my mother. "Yes," I said. "I really am." "Then that's all that matters." She squeezed my hand once more before letting go. "Come by for dinner sometime. Both of you. I make a terrible pot roast, but the company's good." "We'd love that," I said, meaning it. After my mother left, Sam and I finally made it to the balcony. The night air was cool and clean, a relief after the warmth of too many bodies in too small a space. The river stretched out below us, reflecting the lights from the city beyond. "That went well," Sam observed, leaning against the railing beside me. "Better than I expected." I turned to face him fully. "Thank you for coming tonight. I know this isn't exactly your scene. Anywhere you are is my scene." He said it so simply, like it was just fact. "Besides, I enjoyed watching you work the room. You're good at this. Reading people, navigating complicated social dynamics. Years of practice trying to keep everyone happy." I smiled wryly. "Though I'm trying to be better about whose happiness I prioritize." "Good." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering on my cheek. "You deserve to be happy too, Mia. Not just everyone around you." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed in my clutch. I pulled it out and felt my stomach drop when I saw the name on the screen. Jacob Torrance. "What is it?" Sam's entire demeanor shifted, reading the tension in my body immediately. "Jacob." I showed him the phone. "He's calling from jail." We'd heard through Sam's connections that Jacob was being held without bail pending trial. The charges were serious stalking, conspiracy to commit murder, fraud. His lawyer was arguing for a plea deal, but the district attorney wanted to make an example of him. "You don't have to answer," Sam said. But something in me wanted to. Needed to hear whatever final manipulation Jacob thought would work, so I could prove to myself that it wouldn't. I answered and put it on speaker. "Mia." Jacob's voice came through, and I was struck by how small it sounded. How ordinary. This man who'd consumed so much of my life, who'd orchestrated such elaborate cruelty, just sounded pathetic. I was hoping you'd pick up. What do you want, Jacob? To apologize. He laughed bitterly. I know that's not worth much now, but I wanted you to hear it anyway. Sorry. For all of it. You're sorry you got caught, I corrected. There's a difference. Maybe. He was quiet for a moment. Or maybe I'm sorry I destroyed the one good thing in my life because I was too greedy and stupid to appreciate it. I was never yours to destroy, I said calmly. I was my own person. I just forgot that for a while. The Mia I knew would have forgiven me by now, he said, and I could hear the manipulation creeping back in. The assumption that I was still that soft, malleable girl who hated conflict. Would have at least visited. Tried to understand. You're right, I said. She would have. But I'm not her anymore. Sam's hand found mine. His fingers threading through mine in silent support. I hope he's worth it, Jacob said, anger finally bleeding through. Your criminal husband. I hope when his world comes crashing down and takes you with it, you'll remember that I tried to warn you. You didn't try to warn me. You tried to control me. I felt remarkably calm, like I was discussing the weather. And the only world that crashed was yours. Goodbye, Jacob. I hung up before he could respond. For a moment, Sam and I just stood there in the quiet, the muffled sounds of the gala drifting through the balcony doors behind us. How do you feel? He asked. I considered the question honestly. Expected to feel shaken or angry or sad. But instead I just felt free. Like I finally closed a door I should have locked a long time ago, I said. Sam pulled me into his arms, and I went willingly, resting my head against his chest and listening to the steady beat of his heart. I love you, he said quietly. I don't think I've actually said that yet. But I do. I love you, Mia. My heart expanded so quickly it almost hurt. I pulled back just enough to look up at him, seeing my own feelings reflected in his dark eyes. I love you too, I whispered. He kissed me then, soft and sweet and full of promise. And standing there on that balcony, in the space between my old life and my new one, I felt completely, perfectly whole. When we pulled apart, I heard applause coming from inside. I glanced through the glass doors and saw people raising their glasses, clearly having witnessed our moment. We've given them quite a show, I observed. Let them talk. Sam smiled and held out his hand. Dance with me, Mrs. Lloyd. We went back inside, and as the orchestra played something slow and romantic, Sam held me close while we swayed together. I was aware of people watching, of whispers and speculation and the stories that would be told about this night. But for the first time in my life, I didn't care what anyone else thought. I was exactly where I wanted to be. 2 months later, I stood in Elena's office at one of Sam's legitimate businesses, a security consulting firm that actually did real, legal work and reviewed the contracts spread across her desk. These look good, I said, making a few notes in the margins. But I'd restructure Clause 7 to give us more flexibility on the back end. Elena looked up from her computer, eyebrows raised. Listen to you, sounding like a real businesswoman. I'm learning. Smiled. Turns out 5 years of contract law translates pretty well to the private sector. After the gala, I'd officially resigned from Morrison & Associates. Not because Sam had asked me to, but because I'd realized I wanted something different. Something that felt like mine. Elena had offered me a position helping manage the legal side of Sam's legitimate operations. And I discovered I actually enjoyed the work. More than that, I was good at it. Sam's in his office, by the way, Elena said casually. Said to send you in when you got here. I made my way down the hall to the corner office where Sam spent most of his days now. He'd been slowly transitioning more of his operations to legitimate channels, a process he said I'd inspired. Hard to ask you to trust my world when I don't trust it myself anymore, he'd explained one night. Time to build something better. I knocked on his door and pushed it open to find him on the phone, but he smiled when he saw me and gestured for me to come in. I understand your concerns, but this is the best offer you're going to get, he said into the phone, his voice carrying that edge of authority that still made my pulse quicken sometimes. Think it over and call me back by Friday. He hung up and came around the desk to greet me properly, with a kiss that lingered just long enough to make me forget why I'd come to his office in the first place. How was your morning? He asked. Productive. I finished the Walker contracts and started reviewing the new properties you wanted assessed. I settled into the chair across from his desk. Elena says you wanted to see me. I did. He pulled something from his desk drawer and slid it across to me. It was a key. What's this? I asked, picking it up. Remember that building downtown we looked at last month? The one you said would make a perfect community legal aid center. My heart started beating faster. We'd driven past it one afternoon, and I'd mentioned offhandedly that it would be a great location for free legal services for people who couldn't afford representation. People like the version of me who hadn't known Jacob was stalking her, who would have had nowhere to turn if Sam hadn't intervened. Sam, that building costs. I bought it, he said simply. Or rather, we bought it. It's in both our names. If you still want it, it's yours to do whatever you want with. I stared at him, completely speechless. You don't have to decide now, he continued. But I thought if you wanted to build something that's entirely yours, something that helps people the way you were helped. He trailed off, suddenly looking uncertain. Is this too much? I should have asked first. I stood up and walked around the desk, cutting off his words with a kiss that I hoped conveyed everything I couldn't find words for. Gratitude, love, wonder that this man saw me so clearly and wanted to help me become the best version of myself. It's perfect, I said when we finally broke apart. You're perfect. Far from it, he said, but he was smiling. But I'm trying to be better. For you. For us, I corrected. His smile widened. For us. 6 months after the night I'd met Sam Lloyd in a dive bar, I stood in front of a crowd of reporters at the grand opening of the Ripley Legal Aid Center. My mother sat in the front row next to Sam, both of them beaming with pride. Elena was there too, along with several of Sam's business associates and a surprising number of people from my old firm who'd expressed interest in volunteering their time. For too long I let other people write my story, I said into the microphone, my voice steady and sure. I let them tell me who I was, what I wanted, what I deserved. And when they betrayed me, I almost let that define me too. I looked at Sam, who gave me an encouraging nod. But then someone showed me that I could write my own ending. That I could take everything that had broken me and use it to build something stronger. I gestured to the building behind me. This center is for everyone who's ever felt powerless. Who's ever been manipulated, controlled, or told they weren't strong enough to fight back. We're here to prove them wrong. The applause was thunderous. Later, after the speeches and tours and endless photographs, Sam and I finally escaped to the roof of the building, where we could see the entire city spread out before us in the fading sunlight. You did good today, he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. We did good, I corrected, leaning back against him. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Yes, you could have. His voice was warm against my ear. You just didn't know it yet. I just helped you see what was already there. I turned in his arms to face him. Do you ever regret it? That night in the bar? Choosing to help me instead of just walking away? Not once. He cupped my face in his hands. You were the best impulsive decision I've ever made. I was thinking, I said slowly, that maybe it's time to make this marriage about more than just protection or convenience. His eyes searched mine. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to renew our vows. Properly this time. With our families and friends. Not because we have to, but because we choose to. Smiled. I want to marry you again, Sam Lloyd. For all the right reasons. His answering smile was brighter than anything I'd ever seen. Mia Ripley Lloyd, that's the best idea you've ever had. He kissed me as the sun set over the city we both called home, and I thought about the girl I'd been 6 months ago. Heartbroken. Humiliated. Lost. She'd thought her story was ending. She'd had no idea it was just beginning.